A proportion is a statement that two ratios are equivalent, such as 1 over 12 equals 2 over 12. In the proportion A over B equals C over D, the products A times D and B times C are called cross products. You can solve a proportion for a missing value by using the cross products property, something most of us know as cross multiply and divide. But with Algebra 1, it gets a little bit more tricky because we start throwing in more equations. So you can't simply just cross multiply and divide. Sometimes you have to cross multiply to set up an equation that you have to then solve. These are our first two examples. So in example 1, we have 3 over 9 equals 5 over m. And so we're going to cross multiply. And when we cross multiply, we get 3 times m equals 9 times 5, which is 45. And now we're going to divide by 3 in order to solve for m. And we should get m to equal 15. Example 2. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to cross multiply, so y times 2 gives us 2y. Negative 5 times 8 gives us negative 40. We're then going to divide by 2 in order to solve for y, and you get y to equal negative 20. Example 3. Now we're starting to introduce small expressions into our proportions, so we have to make sure that when we're multiplying across, we're also distributing that value. So in this case, we're going to cross multiply the 2 and the y minus 3. So what happens is you end up with 2 times the quantity, y minus 3, equals 6 times 7. Well, on the left side of this, we know that we should be distributing this 2 throughout. So we get 2y minus 6 equals, well, 6 times 7 is 42. Now we're just going to solve this equation like we've been solving all chapter. We're going to add 6 to both sides. We've got 2y equals 48. We're then going to divide by 2, and we get y to equal 24. Example 4, same idea. Let's cross multiply our proportion. We've got g plus 13 over 2 equals negative 5 over 3. So the first thing we're going to cross is we're going to take 3 times g plus 13. And then we're going to set that equal to the cross product of 2 times negative 5g, which I know to be negative 10g. I want to make sure I distribute this 3 throughout that quantity of g plus 13. So I get 3g plus 39 equals negative 10g. Now I'm going to get my g's on one side of the equation, so I'll subtract 3g from both sides. I end up with 39 equals negative 13g. I'll then divide by negative 13. And I get g equals negative 3. In example 5, we now have two expressions present in our proportion. We've got 5 over 3b plus 4 and 3 over b minus 4. So when we cross multiply, we want to be very careful to make sure we are distributing the values accordingly. So let's start with the 5 times b minus 4. And then I'll cross multiply the other way, and I get 3 times 3b plus 4. Now I want to make sure I distribute these values accordingly. Well, 5 times b is 5b. 5 times negative 4 is negative 20. Then I distribute here. 3 times 3b is 9b. And 3 times 4 is 12. So now I need to solve for my variable b. I'm going to start by subtracting 5b from both sides. I have negative 20 equals 4b plus 12. I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides. I get negative 32 equals 4b. I'm going to divide by 4 on both sides, and I get b to equal negative 8. My last example for this part is c plus 1 over c minus 2 equals 4 over 7. So I'm going to start by cross multiplying the 7 and the c plus 1. And then I'm going to cross multiply the 4 and the c minus 2. And so now that I know how my setup is, I'm going to distribute these values throughout. So 7 times c is 7c. 7 times 1 is 7. Distribute the 4 as well. 4 times c is 4c. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. I need to move the 4c, so I subtract it from both sides. I get 3c plus 7 equals negative 8. And then I need to undo the 7, so I subtract 7 from both sides. I've got 3c equals negative 15. And then my last step is to divide by 3. And I get c equals negative 5. So now we're going to deal with some word problems involving proportions. An iPhone 4 has 2 gigabytes of storage and can hold about 500 songs. But the new iPhone 5 has 80 gigabytes of storage. How many songs can the iPhone 5 hold? All right, so we need to set up a proportion. So let's first think about how many songs and how much memory the iPhone 4 has. Well, we know the iPhone 4 has 2 gigabytes and it holds 500 songs. Now let's compare that to the iPhone 5. Well, it has 80 gigabytes of storage, but we don't know how many songs it'll hold. By comparing the two ideas, we were able to set up a proportion, and so now all we have to do is cross multiply and solve. So I'm going to first take 2 times x, I get 2x. Then I'm going to take 500 times 80, and I get 40,000. So my next step is to solve for x. So I'm going to divide by 2, and I'm going to get that the iPhone 5 can hold around 20,000 songs. All right, in this word problem, they tell us that an 8-ounce can of orange juice contains about 97 milligrams of vitamin C. About how many milligrams of vitamin C are in a 12-ounce can? All right, so let's first start looking at the 8-ounce can and how many milligrams it has. Well, 8 ounces goes with the 97 milligrams. And let's then compare it to the 12-ounce can. Well, the 12-ounce can, we're not certain how many milligrams of vitamin C it has, so let's go ahead and make that our variable C. And so now to solve this, we just need to cross multiply to set up our equation. 8 times C is 8C, and 97 times 12 is 1,164. And so now we need to solve this. Well, we have 8C equals 1,164, and in order to solve that, we're going to divide both sides by 8. And we should get that the 12-ounce can has 145.5 milligrams of vitamin C.